In the winter of 2020, I made several visits to Amtrak's Keystone Corridor to catch trains speeding through the snow, while mainly focusing on the Middletown platform and the newer Mountjoy station. A clear signal is displayed at Roy for the eastbound Pennsylvanian, which will not stop at this platform, serviced only by electrified Keystone service trains. Up to this point, the Middletown Station has been nothing to write home about. A low-level platform requiring passengers to cross the tracks to board or get off eastbound trains, and worst of all, situated right in a super-elevated curve. At this point in December 2020, the new station a mile to the west is in its early stages of construction. Eastbound Keystone Service 670 glides to a stop with sprinters bracketing an unusual 6-car consist, possibly due to a shortage of available cab cars. .670 will sit here for about a minute until their 2:15 p.m. departure time, while 43, the westbound Pennsylvanian, is only a couple minutes away. I don't think anyone will miss walking across these wooden planks once the high-level concrete platform opens across town. If 670 is delayed out of Harrisburg but 43 is on time, 43 must hold at Roy until 670 completes their station work since passengers foul the number 2 main track. With an island platform going in at the new station, this will no longer be an issue. Not even a minute after 670 disappeared in a cloud of snow east of Roy, 43's headlight emerges speeding toward the camera. As 43 disappears around the curve behind the Pennsy Freight House, a familiar horn sounds nearby on the M&H. I quickly head over to Carnes, making it just in time to find the Alco S6 heading up Brown Street to the interchange. A big crowd is out on this day, getting their Saturday before Christmas grocery shopping done. It's nice seeing 151 in freight service a little over a month since the charter, heading to grab a single tank car dropped by NS just east of the station construction site as steel framing begins to take shape. Middletown was settled over 265 years ago along the left bank of the Susquehanna River and mouth of the Swatara Creek. This location boomed in 1827 upon completion of the Union Canal, and later both the Pennsylvania and Reading Railroads followed. The Middletown and Hummelstown Railroad was originally laid in 1888, but soon became part of the Philadelphia and Reading, returning once again to an independent company in 1976, while many other Reading lines were absorbed into Conrail. The poisonous 1017 placard lets us know this is a load of chlorine gas that's being shoved to Univar on the other side of town, the only active customer aside from a regular influx of storage cars. This was once the site of the Wincroft Stove Works. Though most of the buildings are gone except what is now Carnes Food, a siding still remains in the road that served the factory buildings here. Since the train moves walking speed, I quite literally ran down to the next shot of them passing Cuppy's Diner at about the halfway point of the street running. On their way through the yard, they passed the currently out-of-service T6 that will hopefully be operating again soon. The very next day, I was out in the Mount Joy area, set up at the former Chickies Road crossing. A favorite spot of mine if you haven't figured that out already. You just can't beat the wide-open views, which are hard to come by on Amtrak's busy passenger corridors. This shot is evidence of why the Pennsylvania Railroad routed a lot of its heavy trains to the south along the Acklen and Susquehanna branch, nicknamed the Enola Low Grade because it bypassed the hills on the Philadelphia to Harrisburg, Maine that would otherwise slow down heavy freights. Though through freight ended long ago under Conrail, prompting abandonment of much of the A&S, local service still passes through here at night, operated by Norfolk Southern. Train 666 speeds east by the camera at 90 miles per hour 2 minutes after noon. This is only a minute late as the train was operating on a 15-minute later departure because of the Middletown construction, meaning 663 is departing Lancaster now and will be here in a few minutes. At 12:09, another cab car comes into view. Now, I don't particularly care to catch these leading, but I shouldn't be too picky as they'll eventually be replaced by new rolling stock from Siemens Mobility. This former Metroliner was built by Bud in the late 60s, though reliability issues forced them off Metroliner service entirely by 1981, but were still used in Keystone service until their conversions into cab cars in the late 80s. After shooting an NS train along the Port Road, I passed through Mount Joy on my way home, stopping at the former Newcomer Road crossing for 6:65 exactly 4 hours later. They have the same set we saw heading east earlier since COVID reductions have Keystone service running only between Philly and Harrisburg. Service to New York Penn wouldn't be restored until September 2021. They slow for their station stop just around the curve, and I pack up and continue home. 3 days later, I'm back out on a weekday a mile east of Lancaster Station to catch NS Local H28 under the wires heading for the New Holland Secondary. This move requires them to cross over to the opposing main upon entering Amtrak at Lancaster, since the switch to the New Holland is on the north side, so they'll have to wait on a couple Keystone trains to pass. 646 is first, pushed by Sprinter 624, now the third time we've seen this train set. All Keystone trains are symboled in the 600s, and while not related, ACS 64s have engine numbers in the 600s, so it's possible they could match, which I've only seen a few times.
Industrial to the new highway.
10 minutes after 641 arrives at Lancaster Station, H-28 slowly comes into view heading restricted speed, since it is my understanding that all diverging moves onto non-signaled industrial tracks must be made at 10 miles per hour. The GP38-2 and SD40E are more than enough power to handle the 12 inbound loads and any switching duties at the many customers along the 12-mile branch. This is pretty much the only spot to view this train on Amtrak, other than crossing the Conestoga River Bridge just out of view around this curve. H-28 will diverge onto the secondary just beyond the bridge at Holland Interlocking, and we'd follow them up from there and watch them shift a few customers before heading over to Bird-in-Hand for eastbound 650. Just around this curve is the town of Ronks, where there's quite a bit of railroad archaeology in plain sight. A pointless arrow can still be found over Ronks Road that was painted in 1985 according to the markings on the bridge. I love seeing old mill tracks that extend over sets of concrete piers, where I'm guessing cars just dumped or stored their freight directly below. I've never found any still in use, but it's not hard to find remnants like this throughout the region. This one has been reclaimed by the Ronks Fire Department as some sort of parking area for training vehicles. 42 rounds the curve under the last remaining farm overpass along the line. In the distance is the signal at Irishtown Road. I let the camera roll to catch them dropping the signal, but I was really hoping to get a shot of them meeting 43. Although that did not happen, 43 comes into view not even a minute later with a friendly engineer in the Christmas spirit playing a Jingle Bell salute on the horn. An empty coal train is tied down on the NS Royalton branch as I start off the new year east of the state capitol for Phase 3 Heritage Unit 145, leading the eastbound Pennsylvanian. Whatever unit goes west from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh comes back east on 42 the next day, so the same pair of locomotives often stick around for a few weeks or until they are pulled out of service for their 92-day quarterly inspection. It's hard to believe that these heritage units were turning 10 years old, but little did I know that Amtrak was planning on unveiling their 50th anniversary units later in the year. Another sunny day at the end of January prompted me to head trackside for another shot of 145 leading 42 at Roy, the faded Penn Central era sign still on the switchbox. Roy is situated in the namesake town of Royalton, once a junction of two double-track electrified main lines, with a set splitting off down the river allowing freights on the Columbia and Port Deposit a direct route to Harrisburg. Some freight still use the now single-track Royalton branch, though mostly through the night into the early morning. On my way home, I stopped at Mount Joy to see 43 booking it past the station, almost missing them rounding the curve. The very next day I returned to Mount Joy Station. The clear skies gave way to persistent snowfall and the roads were a bit tricky to navigate, but I made it just in time to set up on the north platform for 42. I stood waiting for the headlights to come into view, but after a half hour there was nothing. It didn't help I had a dead phone battery to check on their status, so I figured it's safe to stay by the camera. By 2 o'clock, I changed sides to get into position for 43, when finally a train snuck up behind me while I was setting up. Well, there's our answer. 42 must have had an engine failure in Harrisburg since the Protect unit was added and running 45 minutes late. A minute later, 43 passes the station with 145 on the point. By now I was freezing since I didn't have the gap between trains to warm up in the car. Luckily 670 wasn't far behind the delayed 42, so I cross-backed over to the other side for their station stop. .600 was the first ACS-64 ever built, lettered for David L. Gunn, president of Amtrak from 2002 to 05. He is most known for discontinuing Amtrak's express freight service and U.S. postal contract, causing the boxcars and road railers to disappear from the select long-distance trains. Heavy snowfall continues throughout the afternoon, so I relocate east of town to Chickies Road. The bright LED headlights of train 615 do a good job cutting through the drastically reduced visibility. A week later, on February 7th, I return to the same spot as a light snowfall continues topping the few inches from the last storm. Now, I'm not superstitious, but some might find a gathering of black crows in front of train 666 a bad omen. 600 brings up the rear exactly 7 years after it made its first revenue run on Northeast Regional Train 171 from Boston to Washington, D.C. in 2014, ringing in the era of Siemens mobility on Amtrak. A 50-minute delay of 663 out of Philadelphia allowed me more than enough time to relocate to Newcomer Road. The bank I am standing on was once part of the trolley line between Lancaster and Elizabethtown that briefly paralleled the Pennsylvania Railroad until its abandonment in 1932. In town, I attempt to redeem the shot of 42 I had planned last week, though the flurries stopped before they come into view. Today's train is running on time and was even into Harrisburg 13 minutes early, a trend that Norfolk Southern would not continue into the next year. In March, I returned to Middletown to check on the progress of the new station, stopping on my way for a shot of 42 crossing the Swatara Creek. Further up 441, a road sign directs travelers to the old station platform for now. On the other side of town, the steel framework of the towers and pouring of concrete for the high-level platform is complete. The tracks were spread apart so both could be served by one middle platform. Elevator installation will eventually take place, and then the final masonry work, which looks well underway on the other side of the tracks. Construction equipment is scattered over the future site of the parking lot. As a reminder, the track closest to us is the Norfolk Southern Royalton branch, and the M&H interchange is on the far side with a makeshift crossing for workers to access the Amtrak right-of-way. .670 slows for their stop just around the curve, and I've no idea why a Sprinter is also on the rear behind the cab car. This vantage is behind the Public Works building, and with no one around on this Sunday, it was great to document this location before Amtrak fences it off. .43 cruises by the station skeleton in what is no doubt the most unique shot I'll ever get of them here. 10 minutes later, we managed to catch a rare afternoon coal empty heading up the Royalton branch. While it's possible to see trains in daylight in the early morning or around sunset, it's near impossible to catch one in the middle of the afternoon. An uptick in export coal traffic combined with the temporarily reduced frequency of Amtrak trains on the Northeast Corridor has more freights arriving at or departing Baltimore during daylight hours, which I'll explain more in the next video. NS coal trains are much less homogeneous today than the pure sets of Top Guns I remember seeing in the years past, though I do enjoy seeing these oxide red Conrail Bethgons still scattered throughout the train. While this is the first and last shot I'll get of a freight passing this spot, I look forward to shooting from the new platform once it's open. It was such a nice day, we stuck around for 665 West from the embankment along Ann Street. Our last train of the day is 672 East with St. Peter's steeple rising above the town in the background. I hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more Amtrak and Norfolk Southern videos coming soon. And as always, thanks for watching.